Hey there, this is Jonathan Rudnick. I'm one of your insurance brokers for Martin and Martin. Um, what I wanted to get into today was to talk a little bit about some of the HMO plans and different plans provided, through Kaiser. Um, a lot of people ask me every year, what's the best plan for me to go on? What are some of the choices that I should be thinking about? And the best way to kind of go about some of this is to go through it in this kind of format. If we were doing a live webinar right now with everybody on, I would be, answering some of the questions, and I guarantee you these questions would come up. High deductible, low deductible, how do these copays work? All the different features. What is Kaiser? There's so many different questions that'll come up, and I love those questions. I wanted to post this video so whether you're looking at this, late at night and for some reason you couldn't be on one of our webinars, or if you're a new hire and you're coming into the firm, that you'd have the ability to get the benefit of the information that goes on in some of these meetings. So without further ado, I'm going to talk specifically about Kaiser. That is the medical plan of choice for your employer. So I will show you how it works inside of our portal. There is going to be other videos and other things related to either talking about the dental plan or just generally getting into the website, each year. So this is going to be specifically about the medical plans. I picked a fictitious name. My name is not Barry Allen. I already told you my name is Jonathan. If you want to laugh, that's obviously the name of the Flash. But, I thought I'd throw something up there. Could have as easily been LeBron James, right? But we just went with Barry Allen. So when you're looking in your portal, what you should see when you get to the medical plan section, hold on really quick, I'm going to move this tab out of my way, is you should see a couple of YouTube videos. One here is this is about Kaiser and its model and its system, the way that it works. I thought you would want a little bit of background on how Kaiser does things. Most people know that Kaiser is a one-stop shop, meaning that you go to their facilities for the majority of everything, and you usually do not go outside of Kaiser. It is very rare for them to give you a referral outside of Kaiser. The second thing that I posted here for you this year that is new is because we're in the middle of the pandemic, I posted this video about how to talk to children about COVID-19. Regardless of whether you put your children on this plan, it was kind of a cool video to show you how Kaiser is dealing with the explanations surrounding how to treat children and what to worry about, during the pandemic. So that's in there for you as well. As we scroll down, one thing that gets confusing from year to year is that employees always say, hey, I can't see some of the pricing for my whole family or what's going on. Right now, I am the only person on the plan, so it does not show any other family members. You do not have to enroll all of your family members under the plans, but in order for you to see what the cost is going to be, you do have to add them in your dependents section when you're going through the initial phase of the portal. So make sure that they're in there. You might want them in for dental, but you don't want them in for medical. So you definitely have to add those dependents in so that you can see what the premiums are. Let's say as an alternative, you don't want the medical. Maybe you have a better plan through your spouse. So you would choose to waive in this scenario. And so we need everybody to completely, go through this process. And this is one of the things that has to be done for an employer perspective, because they have to know why you're not going on their plan. So you can choose spouse's group plan. Maybe you're on a parent's group plan. Maybe you have Medi-Cal. Maybe you even have Medicare. So you can choose one of those things. Otherwise, in order to see some of the other information, you're going to have to click enroll. Now, what you can see here is it says that I'm missing certain information. So this is going to happen throughout the enrollment process. So when it clicks here, it's asking me for my address. That's something that I didn't fill out when I did this, last year. So very quickly, you can go ahead and fill this out, and then it's going to let you continue after that. In the old days, it used to be very important what your address was because it could actually affect your premium. All right. But now, right, your premium is based on where your employer is located. So you don't have to worry about some of that. Now, if you were an out of state employee, that's another thing that might, affect your rates, but that has not happened yet. So if there is something unique about your scenario, you should definitely let me know, and we can talk about some of the issues related to that. So let's see if I can jump back to the benefits and if it will let me move on. That's the one good thing about the program, is that if for some reason we have to send an actual enrollment form, all the data that you're putting in is actually filling out an enrollment form just as a backup. Every once in a while, something goes on with Kaiser or some of the other companies, and we need a copy of your actual medical form. So this just makes it so that we can go ahead and do that. So let's see if it's going to let me do some of my enrollment now. All right, it must have been a success because it's going to let me move forward. So one thing you will notice, this gets missed every year. We do have a compare plans option. So this little blue button is actually responsible. And depending on whether you were in the plan last year or not, this will actually show you in this first column, it will show you the plan that you had last year and the premium that you paid. Then the following columns will be all the other opportunities that you have for 1 year. For this upcoming year is what I mean. So the nice thing about this is usually you can either look at it in this format. It does allow you to scroll all the way down, and it does allow you to scroll sideways, right, to go ahead and look at all of the plans. All right. You can also export all this data to Excel, right, just if you want to see it in another format. That just depends if you're a lover of Excel or not. But all of this stuff's here, and this is pretty handy when you're trying to compare, the deductible of one plan to another, copays one to another. These are all the types of things that can be important. Another thing that's interesting is, chiropractic isn't offered on all the plans. So that's another thing you might want to check out from plan to plan. The other thing is that you can see some plans might have a copay for hospitalization, whereas some have a percentage, right? Those are all the types of things that this comparison helps you go through while you're going through piece by piece. So if you close this, right, this will take us back to where we are at and show you your premiums. Your premiums are in semi-monthly. Now this should correspond to the way that premiums are coming out of your paycheck. Keep in mind that the medical and dental premiums are actually coming out pre-tax. So this is huge. A lot of employees ask me every year, is it better to get a plan through my employer or better to get a plan individually? It's always better, even if you were talking about dependents, to get your plan through your employer, not only for the benefits of the different coverage that they have the ability to offer you, right? But also because this is coming out pre-tax, right? An individual plan cannot come out pre-tax, right? And what effectively is happening is you'll make your money at your employer, pay all your taxes, right? And then go buy this individual plan. So it is a huge win if you want to enroll in Kaiser, right? To be able to get this on a pre-tax basis, right? There's no reason to pay extra taxes for no reason. What ends up happening is when you look at your paycheck, you'll see if you made $1,000 in your paycheck and you've utilized $200 of that for medical insurance, you will be taxed on the remaining $800. So that's going to be a savings for most people. All right, there are a ton of different plans that we've loaded in here, 9, in fact, that are available to you. All right, so this is the reason for so many plans rather than just giving you 1 or 2 plans, is because I truly believe that it's a benefit that you can self-design the coverage that works for you. I get questions all day long for people who work for large employers, and they say, oh, I either have a plan that's super expensive or a plan with a massively high deductible, and that doesn't appeal to them, right? So what's great about this is your coverage here is incremental. You can choose a bronze level plan, a silver plan, a gold plan, or a platinum plan. And as you go up the ladder from bronze to platinum, the benefits are going to continue to get richer. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind. The plans are identified by their metal level, right? Most bronze plans are going to have a large deductible like what you see on this screen, but they're going to have a low premium, right? So keep that in mind as you're going through all of this, because that's extremely important. Another thing that I want you to focus on is kind of like what you think you're going to do for this year. Because I honestly believe another thing that people don't understand is that your needs are going to change from year to year. There might be an ankle surgery or a knee surgery or something like that that you've been putting off for a few years, and this is the year that you're thinking about doing this. You might even be thinking about doing this in January, especially with some of the stuff that's going on with the pandemic, right? Unfortunately, you may not want to go to the doctor right now, but there is going to be a time when you're going to need to go and want to get some of this done so you can get back to doing what you need to do, right? So keep that in mind, because once you do this for open enrollment, there will not be another opportunity until next open enrollment, which will come, probably in the middle of April and through the month of May, to go ahead and switch your plan. So this is super important that you remember that, and you get out all of your questions and you look at some of the different items, because you don't want to pay more than you have to for this surgery or this item that you need to take care of this year. The portal looks a little bit different this year. We've included a lot of other items to help you get through some of the process. One of the things that I think is super important is preventative care. So you can click on this and you'll notice that preventative care, right? It's going to list not just the most normal things that you do for preventative care, which is definitely your annual physical, but there are plenty of other items, right? Depending on your age and whether you're male or female, mammogram versus, some of the other PSA testing that you might have to do. So this is a cool document to go back and look to in case you have some questions about what's covered as preventative care. Just keep in mind that when you get over the age of 50, and most people are thinking, hey, that's colonoscopy time. The colonoscopy, yes, it's covered as preventative care. But if they find something that's diagnostic in nature, meaning that maybe they have to perform surgery while you're going through your colonoscopy, right, that's something that you might get charged for. So just keep that in the back of your mind, just in case you're of that age, because those things do happen and they do result in additional charge. Also keep in mind that if the doctor has recommended that there's something that you need to do that's kind of off cycle, and you think of it as preventative care, that may not be preventative care in their eyes. That might actually be diagnostic. And once again, that blood work or that lab work might actually be something that you get charged for. So keep that in mind as well. The one other thing that I think is super important is that a lot of people will go to the doctor and they might be sick, and they were actually scheduled for their annual physical, and then they're like, doc, I think I'm kind of sick too. Do you think you check out my lungs or something? And that's going to result in you paying a copay, because they've now switched your visit from preventative care to diagnostic. So if you get a bill in the mail after that, you'll know what's actually going on. So keep some of that in mind. I want you to make sure and minimize some of the copays that you have, if possible. Okay. Another thing that's going to be provided, inside the portal is your SBC. The SBC, right, is a document that came into play during healthcare reform. This is a document that's supposed to be standard, whether you work for a small company or a large company. Everybody is supposed to have access to this document. What's great about this document is because the form is standardized, everybody is looking at it in the same way. So you should be familiar with saying, here's where my deductible is. Here is where my out-of-pocket is. And you can scroll to the next page and you can say, hey, if I go to the doctor under this plan, how much is it going to cost me? $55, right? This plan that we're looking at, right, happens to be the Silver HMO 1800. Now, it's not a fluke that I actually am looking at this plan. I actually think that this is a pretty good average, middle of the road plan that most people will take. And the reason being that the deductible is not too high. Most people will pick a deductible that's about $2,000. That's an average plan today. Now, if you had told me that 15 years ago, you probably would have thrown a book at me. But today, right, an $1,800 deductible, a $2,000 deductible is pretty standard for most people. And that's the reason why I chose to, focus on that here. So when you're going to look at it, right, scope through some of this, because some of the things that are going to change from plan to plan is that x-rays and lab work on certain plans, the deductible might be waived. And on other plans, right, it might be subject to the deductible. So that's super important, right, when you're thinking about how the plan works. Now, when you see this here, it says on certain items like preventative care, the deductible does not apply, right? So you have to keep that in mind while you're looking at each benefit, because that is showing you that the deductible is waived. When you come down here to the emergency room, that's a big ticket item, right? And it's showing you emergency room care under this plan is 45% coinsurance. But guess what? After the deductible. So you have to pay that $1,800 deductible first. And then right, pay 45%. Now, you're not going to pay 45% forever, right? That 45% is going to then come into conjunction with your out of pocket. So once you've paid your deductible and your co-insurance, if this starts to hit 7,800 or indeed hits 7,800, guess what? Your plan is at 100% until the end of the year. All right, so till December 31st. That is the way that you should be looking at it. That is your protection so that you know if you end up in the emergency room that you don't have to be freaked out that a $100,000 bill is going to be sitting on your table, a couple weeks after that visit. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can avoid some of those bills by going to urgent care. So Kaiser does have urgent cares. You do have to check the hours depending on where you're going, but that's just a $55 visit and the deductible does not apply. So I would use that. Maybe you think you have some sort of sinus infection because we're going through allergy season, right? Go ahead, call the nurse line. That's another thing that you can utilize from Kaiser, and maybe this will assist you on whether you need to go to the urgent care just to get a prescription, right? And help you avoid having to go to the emergency room for something more serious. Now, pregnancy, right, is going to be covered the same way as being in the hospital. So keep that in mind. Right? And then once again, right, each plan is slightly different depending on whether you're talking about chiropractic care. Kaiser's very quirky and not all of the plans contain chiropractic care. So if that's something on your agenda for this year and something important to you or you want to continue on with it, just make sure you're choosing a plan that has chiro care still, again, right? Because the plans can change from year to year so that you continue to receive that. All right. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are putting your children on this plan, right, because you are in a small group, there's actually coverage for children for certain pediatric benefits. You can get an eye exam for a child under the age of 18, vision coverage for glasses, and also there are certain other items, right, that are going to be covered there. And that's something that was done as part of a small group plan that large groups, they don't work this way. Now, on the other hand, there could be a scenario where you want to use the group plans dental because you want to get to your own dentist. Completely understandable. You can definitely do that. This is just an additional benefit, right? Depending on how your plan is set up, right? Where you're getting an eye exam, just depending on how everything is set up. So keep an eye on that. Reach out to me if you have any questions. This is just something to enhance your coverage, and it was done many moons ago. It's not something that is new for this year. So keep an eye on that. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is I now want to flip over here, and I want to go back to where we were before and look at a couple other things. We do have a flyer on the mobile app. This is super cool. This is a good way to email your doctor information, see different test results, deal with stuff at the pharmacy. So this is something that everybody should do. Kaiser loves it when you enroll in their app. Believe it or not, they're actually monitoring how many people enroll in their app and enroll in their stuff online. They believe that part of their mission is to make all of this stuff available to you, and also that utilizing it will make sure that you get the best preventative care, and that preventative care will make sure that you stay out of the emergency room. Okay. A super popular question over the last few months. I know what you're thinking. You're ready to ask me. You're thinking of it in your mind. You're like, I've been waiting this whole time, and I just want him to talk about stuff to do with the pandemic. So super important. And here's a little thing that we saw online, and this is going to run through the end of May. I don't know if they're going to extend this, so I would definitely reach out to me as the broker to see if they've done anything different. But they made an announcement that as of April 1st, that Kaiser is not going to hold you responsible for the treatment, the diagnosis, for any inpatient or outpatient services related to the treatment of COVID-19. So this is huge, because I think a lot of employees were thinking like, hey, I'm going to be stuck with this massive bill. I need to get the best plan ever, or I need to make sure I need to hold on to my health care. Definitely you need to hold on to your health care, but these payments are not going to put you out of business where you're going to have to worry about going, into bankruptcy, right, in order to pay a bill because you were hospitalized because of this, right? Those costs are being picked up by the insurance carrier. So super important. So I wanted to say a little bit about that because I know it's on everybody's mind right now. And once again, reach out to me if this happens to be later in the year and you're just looking for an update on that. All right, so this is pretty good. So I think we kind of have, an overlay of something that should at least get you started in the process of how to think about your Kaiser coverage. We have a whole bunch of different HMO plans. Remember, they range from the bronze all the way up to platinum. So a whole bunch of different plans in here. That's just there really, like I said, to make sure, right, that you have the right, plans available to you. So there is an opportunity to roll in a Kaiser PPO plan. So keep that in the back of your mind. We've only had a few small enrollments because for the most part, people are not thinking about PPO options when they're thinking about going to Kaiser. The PPO option is really there for anybody that needs to go outside of Kaiser and utilize doctors in the PPO network. So you would not be using those Kaiser doctors for some of those visits when you go outside of the network. You're really using this to go ahead and get to different providers. So you will find that inside the portal as well. Once again, reach out to me. We're here for you all night, all day long. I just almost said all night long, but I feel like that's kind of funny because since we've been at home and working remotely, that it feels like we're open 24 hours. But usually I open the office up at the same exact time, so you can reach any of us in the office. We're usually here, from 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. and always available by email. So we do our best to get back to you as soon as possible, and that's usually less than 24 hours. When you go and select your plan, one last thing before we get out of here, just know that when you do that, the cost is going to show up here on the right-hand side. And so that's letting you know in a kind of shopping cart fashion how much you're spending on your benefits. And so this was a approach that we did for your employer about 2 to 3 years ago because a lot of the employees weren't really able to see what was coming out of their paycheck in an easy way. Well, you're able to go back to this at any time throughout the year, and you can always see what your payroll deduction should be based on the information, here in the system. You should see something, and I'll touch on this briefly, although this does not have to do with the medical plans and their style, but you should see something here, right, where you have a benefit allowance. And why this is important is that your benefit allowance is something that is put into your system, okay? And you will see that it illustrates that you have money going towards your plan. So that's something that you do have to save when you go through your portal, because now when we go back to our medical plan, right, and this is what I love about it, is it now shows that I had available $149, and it is subtracting that from my $194, right, and letting me know that I have a certain amount of money remaining, okay? So this is super important, right, when looking at your medical plan, because you want to know what you're out of pocket. We all have families of different shapes and sizes, and we all need to, for the most part, need to be mindful of what's coming out of our paycheck. So once again, I hope this was informative to you. Reach out to us. Our telephone number is 818-883-3282. And my email address, although you will also get an email from me when you go through the portal, is jrudnick, so JRUDNICK at LA, F as in Frank, I as in insurance, N as in Nancy, services spelled out with an S.com. So reach out to us both ways. Like I said, we're here for you all year round, not just at open enrollment, to make sure that you're going in the right direction. So have a great day, and we hope to hear from you soon.